Think about how Paris looks today. In just 20 years, it morphed from a medieval mess into a world-class city. Before Baron Haussmann arrived, Paris was a tangle of 30,000 narrow, unpaved streets, packed with over 1 million people. Sanitation was practically non-existent. Cholera epidemics hit hard, killing 20,000 in 1832 and another 20,000 in 1849. Diseases spread through water were rampant. Now picture this: over 19 buildings, enough to fill your entire small town, just vanishing. That was the scope of Haussmann's grand plan, a vision that required tearing down so much. His new avenues were incredibly wide, sometimes 30 meters across, consuming entire city blocks. Haussmann carved out 150 kilometers of new roads, a distance that stretches from Paris all the way to Brussels. Before him, Paris was a claustrophobic, shadowy maze where 300,000 people lived in misery. The urban density reached an astonishing 100,000 people per square kilometer. You know, it felt like your entire block was a sardine can. These boulevards weren't just for show. They were built for speed, specifically for moving troops rapidly. A single grand avenue could get 1,000 soldiers into position in mere minutes. But the transformation wasn't solely about control. Haussmann also added 2,000 hectares of new parks, nearly 4 times the size of Central Park. He simultaneously laid down 600 kilometers of modern sewers and fresh water pipes. Before his work, only 12% of homes had running water. Most people shared communal pumps, with about 50 families to a pump. Uniform building fronts, consistent roof lines, specific balcony styles. His architectural imprint is everywhere. This completely reshaped city was a direct answer to urban decay and rampant disease. Paris was undeniably transformed. "350,000 Parisians were displaced to forge a new city. Before its grand boulevards, Paris festered with disease, chaos, and the constant threat of revolution, its narrow streets choked with open sewers and overcrowded tenements. Picture breathing that air daily, with multi-story buildings packing 150 people each, multiple families sharing floors with abysmal facilities. Disease was rampant, claiming over 10% of infants each year, a higher mortality than soldiers in combat. This squalor fueled endless unrest. Paris endured 8 major uprisings between 1830 and 1871, earning its title as Europe's revolution capital. Then came Emperor Napoleon III. Haunted by the specter of revolution and inspired by London, he envisioned a modern, controlled Paris. He found his instrument, Georges-Eugène Haussmann, a ruthless prefect with the singular vision and will to remake the city. Haussmann's methods were brutal, tearing down homes and uprooting 350,000 residents. Parisians dubbed him the Demolisher, hardly a vote of confidence. Yet, despite the controversy, Haussmann's vision defined modern Paris. 60% of its central buildings were erected during his 17-year overhaul. His legacy persists. Parisian populations exploded, leading to unimaginable squalor. By 1850, central Paris was crammed with over 50,000 people per square kilometer. Public health was a catastrophe. A mere 15% of buildings had running water, forcing most to rely on communal fountains. This appalling sanitation ignited disease. The 1832 cholera outbreak alone claimed over 18,000 Parisians. These dire conditions bred radicalism. Over 1,500 barricades rose during the 1848 revolutions, turning streets into war zones. The streets themselves were often less than 2 meters wide, blocking sunlight, and public green spaces were virtually non-existent, far below any livable urban standard. By 1853, Paris was drowning in 2.5 billion francs of debt, a fortune that ignited Napoleon III's ambitious plan for transformation. Returning from London exile, he was set on remaking Paris into a shining imperial capital. His years in England had shown him London's spacious avenues and abundant parks, a stark contrast to Paris's cramped streets and poor sanitation. He'd seen London boast 200 acres of green space and over 80 miles of modern sewers, while Paris offered less than 200 acres and hardly any functional sanitation. Napoleon III's goal was clear: consolidate imperial power and ensure future stability. He believed that a modernized city, complete with broad avenues, would prevent insurrections like those in 1848. Imagine your city's main streets suddenly becoming wider than a football field, 30 meters across. That was the vision for Paris, with plans for 350 kilometers of brand new roads. Tackling such a monumental task demanded someone truly exceptional, a figure of iron will capable of shattering centuries of urban tradition. In 1853, Napoleon III appointed Georges-Eugène Haussmann prefect of the Seine, bestowing upon him nearly absolute power. Haussmann operated directly from imperial decrees, bypassing local authorities to push through radical changes across dozens of Parisian districts. This wasn't just about beauty, it was about control. Those wide boulevards were designed to disrupt barricades and facilitate rapid troop movements. Naturally, demolishing an estimated 19,730 buildings forced hundreds of thousands of working-class residents to the city's outskirts. That's akin to relocating an entire city's population, say, San Francisco's entire center, to its periphery. This urban reshaping caused a profound demographic shift. The working-class population within central Paris plummeted by nearly 30% during Haussmann's tenure. Remaking Paris cost about 2.5 billion francs, a truly staggering sum. The man driving this transformation, Baron Haussmann, was no architect, but a remarkably tough administrator. His ruthlessness in that role was almost legendary. He once leveled 10,000 buildings for a new railway. Haussmann's approach was blunt. Buy it, tear it down, build anew. Empowered by Napoleon III, he wielded immense legal authority to execute his grand designs. His goal was to replace 60% of Paris, a scale of urban overhaul unseen in European capitals before. Napoleon III's directive was clear. Erect, unify, and beautify Paris with an essentially blank check. As prefect of the Seine for 17 years, Haussmann's power dwarfed that of the city's elected bodies. They called him the demolition artist. He viewed the city's winding medieval streets not as heritage, but as a sickness needing a cure. At its height, he directed over 40,000 workers, an army reshaping a capital under a single commander. His primary tool was a 1852 decree allowing him to seize any property deemed in the public interest. This made him deeply unpopular. Parisians felt a tyrant was destroying their homes for imperial ego trips. Haussmann worked ceaselessly, a driven force convinced his destruction was necessary progress. Those broad, straight boulevards weren't just for aesthetics. They were ideal for troop movement and quelling dissent. He was precisely the emperor's man, tasked with creating a capital that broadcast absolute power and maintained control. Just imagine receiving an eviction notice because the emperor fancied a better view. Haussmann's initial blueprint for Paris was an audacious plan to literally redraw the map of a city with surgical precision. He launched a radical transformation, tearing down the old to build the new. The core tactic? The percement, driving enormous, straight avenues directly through Paris's densest medieval neighborhoods. This wasn't renovation, it was a full-scale city transplant. 20,000 historic buildings were obliterated, displacing 350,000 people from their ancestral homes. That's like evicting everyone from a city the size of Pittsburgh. Paris's ancient core, a labyrinth of 350 medieval streets, had to be ruthlessly cleared before beauty could rise. Progress, it seems, demands sacrifice. Yet this was also a strategic endeavor. Haussmann envisioned 160 kilometers of wide, straight boulevards designed specifically to prevent barricades, a common tactic during Paris's 11 revolutions. The new buildings along these arteries followed strict rules: uniform height, cream-colored stone, and continuous balconies. Below ground, a second Paris emerged with over 340 miles of new sewers, a hidden revolution that eradicated cholera. He also created nearly 5,000 acres of new parks, giving Parisians much-needed green lungs. It was like a system wipe and a clean OS install for a city. Paris 2.0 was loading whether you liked it or not. New gas street lighting with 56 zuzere lamps illuminated these grand avenues, alongside 2,000 public fountains. Most don't know the staggering human cost of Haussmann's vision. 400,000 people displaced. That's more than the population of many small nations. Centuries of Parisian history, countless medieval buildings, vanished before the wrecking ball, erasing the city's tangible memory. The immense cost, 2.5 billion francs, nearly bankrupted the Second Empire. Was it worth it? But the true revolution unfolded beneath the streets. 600 kilometers of new sewers were laid, enough to stretch from Paris to London. A massive clean water system, with 96 kilometers of aqueducts, brought fresh spring water directly into homes, literally saving lives. These sanitary advancements dramatically reduced cholera outbreaks, diseases that had previously claimed tens of thousands. Public health finally triumphed. Gas lines brought light and heat, and underground pneumatic tubes sent messages across the city in minutes. An early internet for paper. The entire renovation cost over $50 billion today. Haussmann's vision redefined urban life, creating the Paris we recognize. His approach influenced city development worldwide. Baron Haussmann dared to destroy Paris to save it, leaving a complex legacy. The forced exodus created stark social divides, pushing hundreds of thousands to the periphery. Entire neighborhoods vanished, replaced by uniform blocks. This transformation, while modernizing Paris, came at a profound human price, a stark reminder of the cost of progress. $2.5 billion francs. That was the staggering price tag by 1870 for Haussmann's Paris, a sum that sounds almost unreal today. But his most profound legacy wasn't just the grand boulevards we see, but what lay hidden deep beneath the city, a revolutionary sewage and water system. This ambitious network brilliantly separated clean water from waste, a game-changer for public health that dramatically cut down on disease. It was an invisible victory, saving more lives than any monument. Imagine the main sewer tunnels, 5 meters high and 3 meters wide. That's taller than a 2-story house, and vast enough for boats to navigate. Haussmann also locked down Paris's fresh water, tapping rivers like the Douce and the Van through over 100 kilometers of aqueducts, while simultaneously laying more than 600 kilometers of new sewers and water pipes. Beyond these essential networks, he gifted Paris 2,000 hectares of parks and squares, turning grim streets into green oases. Scientists would study this rapid urban greening for years, but these vital lungs breathed life into the bustling city. Over 600